Hey, THC family. Welcome to Vote 2020. I'm Tiana Clewis here, and I'm super excited to be tuning in with you guys. So I need you guys to get on the live stream. I need you to like it. I need you to share it. I need you to comment. I need for you to just get it out there, because we are about to cover some topics that are super important. And as we all know, with coronavirus, everything has gotten truly insane. So it's important that you get all the people on this live stream. Like it, share it, comment. All right. So again, I'm Tiana Clewis. If you don't know me, I'm one of the leaders here at THC, and I am joined by an illustrious panel who's going to help us break down the things that you need to know when it comes to voting in 2020. You've heard many times that this election is extremely important, and it is. All elections are important. And so we want to make sure that you're educated on what you need to do so that you can get registered, so you can vote, and you can be educated about who you are choosing to vote for. So first, I'm going to go to my left where we have Miss Tomeka McGee. Hey. Hi. And then I'm also going to go across from me where we have, joining us by way of Zoom because she's trying to protect the peoples from Corona, we have Khanay Turner Esquire.
Hello, everyone.
And the person to my right, he doesn't need an introduction, but I'll introduce him anyway. You have Pastor Ray Taylor.
What's up, everybody? Glad to be here tonight with these beautiful, wonderful, intelligent young ladies. So I told them earlier when we got started, I'm just here for eye candy. So,
do you see what we have to do with y'all? But all right, so we are going to go ahead and get started. Well, what I want to do is I want to let you know, y'all know Pastor Ray, y'all know what he does. Y'all know that he's involved in when it comes to public service. But what about these two ladies that we have with us? So I want to start with Khanay Turner. Can you let us know how you've gotten connected, how you've gotten involved in this process of helping people learn to vote and get registered?
Well, first of all, Tiana and Pastor Ray, thank you all for having me today. I would like to especially thank my soror, Tomeka McGee, for inviting me, my chapter member with the Fort Worth Alumni chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, for inviting me today to join you all. I have always been involved and had a love for politics, and I guess politics in history. And I guess it was embedded from my family growing up. I knew since I can't even remember really adolescent, I've been steadfast of I wanted to be an attorney and go into politics. I think it really started with politics and in high school, really 2008 with the President Obama election. And I got interested in a little bit more involved in politics, and then went off to school, got heavily involved went to Prairie View A&M University, PV, for all my PV alum and students. And so I went there, was heavily involved with the Young College Democrats, restarted that. And then political action, social action with my sorority. And then just went on with was involved with campaigns, congressional campaigns, did a congressional internship on the Hill, and then went on to law school. And then that time, after I graduated from law school, my first job was involved with the Better campaign, and then got into state politics with the executive director for the Texas Legislative Black Caucus, and now I am the chief of staff for State Representative Toni Rose. So by trade, I'm an attorney, but my passion and what I do for my work is all in politics. So that is why I'm here to, inform people about voting and just keep them updated of what's going on.
Which means you know from both sides how important it is to get the good candidates in and just let people have their voice heard. I love that.
Yeah. So thank you.
Tomeka, can you share with us your story? You have a very personal story when it comes to this.
My story is totally different for Khanay's. And as she mentioned, we are both members of the Fort Worth Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and we both serve on the Social Action Committee. For me, it was my mom. When we were in high school, Paul Lawrence, Dunbar, you know the address.
5600.
5600. We were 5700.
5700, Raimi.
Pastor Ray, we're going to have to take him back up there. 5700, Raimi. We were learning about being registered to vote and getting registered to vote. And I would always go home and tell my mom about things we were learning in school because she was unable to finish school and later on went back to get her GED. And so I was telling her about voting, and she's like, well, you know, she had never voted, that really wasn't a thing that they were told to do. And so I remember when I registered to vote, we got her registered to vote. I wasn't able or old enough at the time. So she got to vote before I did. And just seeing the excitement on her face when sorry, y'all, I have no idea where I'm looking. Just to see the excitement on her face when she was voting. And I mean, I got to vote the next year because I was old enough, but just seeing the excitement. And even when I went off to college, she found a way. And if you know me, you know, my mom never drove. When I grew up, we didn't own a car or anything. And so she always found a ride to go vote. From that moment forward, whether I was here or not, somebody took her to go vote. And as I saw how important it was to her, it just became even more important to me. And just learning all the nuances of voting, I just delved into it and been going strong ever since.
Wow. Love that. Absolutely love that. So you got to see that joy and that excitement, and that really just pushed you.
Yes.
Now, Pastor Ray, I got to ask you, because you have on many occasions talked about voting from the platform. Mm-hmm. Why are you so passionate about it?
You know, pretty much for the same reasons. Ever since I've been eligible to vote, I have voted. It was kind of like for me as a younger person, more so a rite of passage, kind of like when you get your driver's license and then you turn 18, you're old enough to vote. But as I've gotten older and had children and pastoring a church, you start to see, especially on a local level, how certain policies are set up and put in place, laws are created and put on the books, and how it affects and impacts, you know, people locally, and particularly our people. And so I wanted to start being an advocate for encouraging others to be a part of that process and voting. So, I mean, you know, I say it all the time around here. Don't talk to me about it if you're not voting. Man. So you're not eligible to have that conversation with me if you're not voting.
So then that easily segues into what our first question really is about. Because before we can get into the nitty-gritty details about how to vote and how to register and how to get to know your candidates, one thing we have to do is we have to address a myth that our votes don't count, that our votes don't matter. So I want to start with Khanay on this one. Why do you say that the fear that your vote does not matter, your individual vote doesn't matter? Why do you say that fear is false?
I believe it's false because your vote does matter. Even with the accurate narrative that the Electoral College elects, technically, the President of the United States, but that's all that they do. And really, the individuals elect the electors of the Electoral College. And so what I mean by that is whoever wins, whatever party wins that state by popular vote, or like we always say, Texas, and we're going to change that this year. Texas is going to turn, you know, even though it's nonpartisan or anything. Me personally, I'm wishing for Texas to turn blue. But narrative is always that Texas is a red state. And by people voting by the Republican Party always winning Texas, then the electors of the Electoral College will vote for that Republican president. But that's all that the Electoral College vote for. Everything else is 1-to-1 vote. Your direct vote elects your congressional members, your Senate, your U.S. Senate members, your state representatives, your state senators, your sheriffs of your county, the judges that sits on the benches from the Texas Supreme Court and the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals, all the way down to your county and justice of the peace, your what else? Your county commissioners, your constable, all of those are 1-to-1 votes. So your direct vote elect these people. So yes, you might have an electoral college that elects one person, but everybody else is elected by your direct vote. And that is extremely important, because that one person cannot function alone. Like, especially if you want to take, everybody always want to look at the top of the ticket. We have 3 branches of government, not just one. Mm-hmm. And Congress, he cannot act without Congress. And you elect directly your Congress man or woman and your senator. And for Texas, we have a Senate race going on. And of course, your congressional leaders are up to for election. And also your state House of Representatives are also are being elected this year. And a lot of the laws are made on the state level that are that affect you directly. So we really do have to knock down those myths that your vote don't matter, because the people that you interact with, the laws that affect you daily, even in the courts, you get to choose these people. You choose them with your vote.
Mm-hmm.
Tiana, can I just jump in here and add?
Right on in.
I love what she's saying, and I love she broke it down really, really simply for us to understand that is the one seat or the one office that is elected by the Electoral College. And just real quickly, there's actually 4 primary levels of government. That's your municipal, that's the city you live in, mm-hmm. Your county, that's the county you live in. She mentioned all of those, like your county commissioners, your sheriffs. Your sheriff's department is the actual law enforcement agency for your county. And that position as sheriff is actually one that's voted on. And then you have your state level of government, and then as well your federal level of government. But there's branches in each one of them.
Yes.
So, for example, your most municipalities have a council and they have a mayor. Mm-hmm. And it's important because, and I don't know what city you live in, but it is very, very important. And oftentimes we're upset with the mayor, who's pretty much like the chairman of the council, and the council and the city administration works for the council, like the city manager, the chief of police. Actually, the city manager has a set of assistant city managers, depending on how large the city is. And then each one of those public departments, like the fire department, the police department, the water department, they all report up to some of those assistant city managers, who reports up to the city manager, who reports to the mayor and the council. So my point with saying that is you and I have the opportunity to impact these local elections where the laws and the policies are put in place that most immediately affect us. I think if I'm not mistaken, and y'all could fact check me on this, but I won't be too far off. In the last mayoral election in the city of Fort Worth, where I live, you only had 2 candidates. That was Mayor Price, who was reelected, and then you had Chris Nettles, who was her opponent. And between the 2 of them, they didn't have 50,000 votes. In a city that has over 860,000 people, chasing 900,000 people, and maybe perhaps there's a certain population in the city that's not eligible to vote, but you can't tell me that in the city of almost 900,000 people, only 40,000 people can figure out how to get to the polls and vote in the local election. So it's important. So that myth, unfortunately, that is purported or regurgitated or rehearsed as it relates to the presidential election has kind of spilled down into all of the other elections, and we take the same philosophy and approach there. So I want to encourage us to know those differences and then get active and participate.
We definitely have to vote. In the case of Trayvon Martin's mom, when she ran just recently in July, she lost by 300 votes, which was about 1%.
Right.
Wow.
That was the difference in her vote and the person who's won. So when you say your vote doesn't count, it absolutely does count.
It really does. And I like to say one more thing on that. It counts so much that they really are trying any and everything to stop your vote. If we even look at in 2013, the Voting Rights Act was struck down. And so 2016 was the first time we had a presidential election without a strong Voting Rights Act. And we had over 860 polling locations that shut down, and over 400 were in Texas alone. So this is very serious. And even before that, Texas had one of the strictest, and still do, voter ID laws. So they do anything in place and put in place so much to hinder that vote. So your vote is so powerful that they will do anything to stop it.
That's a great point. That is a powerful point to bring up. And I love that because, Tomeka, I think it was you and I were having the conversation, and you talked about how the local elections actually feed up into the national elections. Can you talk more about that?
So you have to know that when you elect the judges and you elect, as Pastor Ray said, you elect the sheriff, all of that feeds into making whatever party in your state strong. So if you don't vote, somebody's voting. Mm-hmm. That's just what it boils down to. Somebody is voting. So who is voting? That is the primary or the party that is driven upwards, because you've elected them at the lower level. So what are they going to do? Turn around and elect someone above them, and it just trickles up instead of going back down. So when you say, well, I'm not voting, it's not worth anything, it's not this, it is absolutely worth everything. You want to talk about the drug laws and everything. Who did you put in office? Who did you sit as a magistrate that oversees the drug cases? You vote for those people. We all do. And we have to understand that we can't get mad at an entity that we did not put in place because they're doing what they feel is right.
Right. I love that. And that's something that we all have to keep in mind. Matter of fact, you said a quote, and I'm about to quote it right, but what you said was protest at the polls.
Exactly. That's exactly what I said. I'm all for protesting. Don't get me wrong. I see the value in it and I see the importance in it. But where it counts is at the poll, because then that's when you show up and show out and you let your voice be heard. They tend, and when I say they, I mean the media and everyone, they tend to hit a topic and move on. So yeah, we protested in Fort Worth. Okay, it made the news a couple of times. They're moved on to the next thing. Mm-hmm. Now they're talking about everything that has happened since then. You show up at that poll and you vote, and your protest is at the poll. They have 2 years to talk about that.
Right.
2 years. That's not something they're going to sweep up under the rug. They're going to say Tarrant County, Fort Worth, Texas turned whatever color, because Delta Sigma Theta is a nonpartisan organization. Can't tell you who to vote for, can tell you to vote.
So then with that, I want to stick with you real quick, Tomeka, as we get to the practical elements of voting. So one thing that we have to clear up is who actually qualifies to vote.
So we get this question all the time. Actually, I've worked the phone bank in the past, calling people, reminding them to vote. And I did have one particular caller that said, I can't vote, I'm a felon. And I said, well, have you, completed all of your obligations to the state of Texas? And they say, you very sure can vote. And he was like, what? I was like, yes, So because I don't ever want to misquote anything, I made sure I took good notes. You can vote if you're a United States citizen, you're a resident of the county where you submit the application, you're at least 17 years and 10 months old. This is registering. Okay, so we want to make that clear. You can register at 17 years and 10 months. You are not a convicted felon. You may be eligible to vote if you have completed your sentence, probation, and parole. So if you've completed all of your obligations to the state of Texas, you can vote in Texas. And I actually, when Pastor Ray reached out to me the last time to come to the church to register to vote, I had someone who asked me, could he register to vote? And he had completed all of his obligations, and he was not a church member. So I don't want y'all to come to church trying to figure out who it was. It was not a church member. And he registered to vote, and he did vote.
Nice.
And he actually posted about it on Facebook. You know, thank you to Tomeka McGee for helping me get registered. I didn't know, and he voted.
That's powerful.
I think we need to make sure we underscore that and emphasize it. So all of my brothers and sisters, if you are no longer, as they say in the streets, on paper, then you are eligible to register to vote. Yes. And a lot of times we allow our past and a lack of good information to keep us from reaching our full potential and participating in this process.
Exactly.
So good deal.
And then also, I'm gonna piggyback on that too. Even if you're sitting in jail and have not been convicted yet, or, out on bail and have not been convicted of anything and not on paper, you can still vote.
Exactly.
So don't let that charge that you got stop you from voting. You can still vote if you do not have, if you're not already a felon on the paper. But if I got this new charge, I'm in jail, or, I'm out on bail, but I don't have any other criminal record that is holding me back right now, then you can register to vote and still vote. Because I know some organizations that register people at the jail.
Wow.
Yes.
And that's amazing, because if more people who have experienced the criminal justice system and the failures of the criminal justice system understood that they actually do have the opportunity to potentially vote, that could actually change the face of what our criminal justice looks like in totality, because these people have lived it, they've experienced it, they know exactly they have a good idea, I should say, of what is right and what's wrong with them.
Nice.
Wow. That's just a powerful perspective. And so please let your people know. Go, send them this link. Like if they're not joining right now, please send them the link so they can get that clarification, so they can understand you might actually be able to vote and you need to do it. So that being said, if you qualify, we actually have to get you registered to vote. And now I'm one of those people that I actually renew my registration every time I renew my driver's license. I just find it super easy that way. So I can't even answer the question of how to register to vote. So I'm gonna toss it to Pastor Ray.
Well, I have some notes here that I'm going to, since Tomeka actually has functioned in the past and even currently. You still?
I have finished the coursework. I need to take the exam.
Okay, we're gonna pray that you ace that with flying colors.
Yeah.
But I
can get you some. I can get you some deputy voter registrars here. You just say the word.
You know what? So let me ask you that question. Let me ask you this, and then I want to ask you a question about that. But what I have here is we need to complete our voters registration application and provide it to your county's voters registrar's office. You can complete it in person at the county voters registrar's office, or you can fill it out on application on votetexas.gov. I like getting tongue-tied. You can print the application, sign it, and mail it in. You can also find your county voters registrar's office at votetexas.gov under register to vote. The due date to have those things submitted is October the 5th. So we still have a little time. Today is September the 8th, so you have a little less than a month. So as a matter of fact, while we're doing this, I need several of you to go log on to votetexas.gov, figure out where your registrar's office is, and go ahead and either print those applications, get them filled out, mailed in, or go by there and do that. So what I was going to ask though is, can Trinity Harvest be a registration site? Pretty much, as long as you have a deputy.
Yes.
Okay.
As long as you have someone that will show up and we can register just like we did in the past. The other thing they need to know is, as long as your address has not changed or your name, you're automatically registered every 2 years. But if something has changed, then you need to correct that, because that's when things happen and you get turned away from polling places, although legally they cannot turn you away.
So it's kind of like, I don't know, like your children's school registration. So basically what you're saying is, whenever you move, just on the whole list of things that you do in preparing to move and actually completing that process, go and re-register to vote is one of those things that you should do. You
can change it on the back of your actual voter registration card.
Okay, so the actual voter.
So or you can fill out a brand new one. It's whichever is more convenient.
All right, to see some of y'all, the Lord is blessed. Y'all bought new houses, and y'all's come up game is real strong, and so you need to do that. You don't even have a whole month, but right now, today, and then you can go online and download the form, or like you said, you can complete it and change it on the back of the voter's registration card, then mail that in. Is that how that works?
Yes.
Okay.
That's exactly how
Get her done. Come on, good people. Get her done. Go ahead, Tiana.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but the other times you need to contact the office or get your information updated is if you changed your name, according to my notes, or if you just find an error on your voter registration card. Are there other times when you see that people should reach out?
Yes. Also, if it's been a while since you've voted, and I mean a while, if it's been 2 voting election cycles that you haven't voted, and usually that is when they remove people or purge people from the voting rolls. If you're inactive in your voting, like Tomeka said, they usually automatically renew you unless you move. And that's usually if you're active in voting, if you're an active voter. But if you haven't registered since 2012, since Obama, it's time for you to re-register, because to be honest, they will have you inactive and probably have removed you from the from the list. And I actually know some individuals who the last time they have voted was since Obama, and a lot of young millennials, Black millennials, have not voted since Obama. And so, they're inactive. They haven't voted in a while, and their names are no longer on the voters roll. So that's when you need to re-register. And just if you're not even sure, it's like, oh my gosh, I don't think I'm registered. You can always check online. I usually go to votetexas.org and click on am I registered to vote, or the easiest way, I always say am I registered to vote Texas in Google, and it'll show you if you're active or not. Nice. And if not, just go on and register. It better safe than sorry. If you're not sure, just go on and register. So
I will admit, with all this news about purging from the ballots, I have checked twice just to be sure.
Yes.
I'm a little paranoid though, but it's all over the news cycle. So I'm happy that you brought it up. But that being said, so you got to check, so if you're already registered, just double check, make sure that you're still showing as registered, because there are instances where you might have gotten knocked out of the system. And if you're not registered, votetexas.gov, get yourself registered. The options are there. But Pastor Ray, so was you thinking about making this a location? Like, is there a plan?
Yeah,
Should people be looking out?
We did it before.
Yes.
I know we've done it before, so we need to consider that. With COVID and everything else, I'm trying to figure that out while I sit here and think about it. If I had been thinking, we could have tagged it with the communion curbside pickup. People could come pick their communion up and vote.
That would have been dope.
So we may still be able to do that. I just don't know if they'll be able to get them in time.
We've made it happen. We registered at Mount Olive this past weekend.
Okay.
And we will be at the Como Community Center September 18th. Registering to vote, and I believe we have a couple of other locations we'll be at. when you're a deputy voter registrar, you have 5 business days to turn it in. So as long as we get it by September 31st, it's going to be there by October 5th.
So then we could probably make that happen. Let's talk about it, and maybe even this Sunday, but certainly by community curbside pickup for September, we should be able to have voter registration set up right here at GAC. Indeed.
So if you want to stay updated on what's happening, because I'll get the information from our lovely DST ladies and THC leadership, we'll figure this out. But locations where you can get registered to vote, we're going to pop that in the THC mobile app. So if you have not downloaded the app yet, just download it, look for THC mobile. Right at the top, it says Vote 2020. Click there. We're going to put that information there. Give me time. Don't look right now. It's not there. So with that being said, I'm sorry. What?
I did want to clarify one thing too. Mm-hmm. I hope people know it is good to register every time you move, but let them know that you're only going to be registered at one place.
Yes.
So for students that are going off to college, and let's say I registered in Tarrant County, and then I went down to Prairie View, but it's in Waller County, and I decided to register down there in Waller County. I am not going to be, my registration here in Tarrant County is now voided. Like it's out. I'm now officially registered in Waller County. So you're not going to be registered all over the place.
Yes.
And sometimes the system is slow too. So you will have to check, because it's like, well, I thought I was registered in Waller County, and you getting ready to go down and vote, and it still have you back home in Fort Worth in Tarrant County. So it is very important to double check exactly where you're registered to vote, because you can only be registered and vote in one county.
Yes, and because where you're registered also drives your ballot of who is on there.
Right.
Yeah.
And you have a story about that. Just go ahead and share the story now, because it's a good one.
So I moved. I changed my voter registration. I did everything I was supposed to do, and I went to go vote. And my ballot did not have the names, because you can also go to vote411.org and get a sample ballot, and it'll tell you everybody that's running, their pros, cons, everything, their, what they believe, everything. So I had already printed out my sample ballot and picked who I was going to vote for. And you can take that into the voting booth with you, because you're not advertising. That is your note. So I told the lady, like, wait a minute, I'm missing some names. And she said, well, no, we have you registered at XYZ. And I was like, oh, no. Here's my driver's license. Here's my voter registration card. You will give me the correct ballot. Now, it took a few minutes, probably about 30 minutes or an hour, and they ended up giving me the correct ballot. But had I not known who was originally on there, I would not have voted for the right people in my zone. So, and that's very important to know, because I don't even know if I had really paid attention before, but it just stuck out to me. Wait a minute, there's a name specifically that I came to vote for that's not listed. So something funny is going on here.
So it is important for multiple reasons that you know who's on your ballot. So just in case you're given the wrong ballot, but also, and I'm going to say most importantly, so that you can be an educated voter. There's times when, and I'll admit, I've done this in the past where I didn't take the time to do the research, and you just run all the way down like one side of the thing. And then you later find out, I don't even agree with this person. So I love that you brought up vote411.org, because I've seen the sample ballots and it's really great. So it literally, for each item that's on your ballot, what you do is you'll click on that part of the ballot. You will look at all the names. You can get links to their websites, to their platforms. And then, yes, that sample ballot, it's such a blessing. Because it's just, okay, this is the person I've decided on in that moment, just in case you forget the names later. Because I don't know about you, but I have a lot of trouble remembering all the names on the ballots.
Oh yeah,
definitely.
Especially when we have a lot of judges.
Yes.
Who is that again?
Judges.
And all the districts.
Yes.
Yeah. Can you speak a little bit more about that, Tomeka? I think you referenced it, that it's actually not considered advertisement. It is a note. So
yes.
Can you talk about what we can do there?
So you know that at the polling places, you cannot take anything saying, you know, vote for me or vote for this person, but you can take your note paper, your printout that gives you, you know, your points that, hey, this is the person I want to vote for. This is the proposition I'm voting against. That is your personal notes. Just don't leave it behind, but you can take that into the booth with you.
Okay.
But it has to be printed on paper, right?
It can be written on paper.
No, I'm not sorry. I don't mean printed, but so like you can't have it on your phone though, right?
I don't know, Khanay, about the phone. I've never used my phone. I've just always had
I've never used my phone. They ask you not to use your phone, but you're in your booth. I think as long as you're not on the phone.
Yes, I think it would.
Yes, because they remember back in the day when people were actually passing out literature at the polling. You can bring those in because those are for you. They
can't
a poll worker for someone, an actual candidate, they cannot come in with that information, but you can. And so also it's important to know that this election, there's no straight tickets. So you cannot just click straight ticket Democrat, straight ticket Republican. I think those are the only ones. I think sometimes they have straight ticket Libertarian. Now you actually, like you said, you got to go line by line for each position to click on which candidate that you want to cast a vote for this election. Now they will still have their party affiliation if that's what you want to vote on somebody based on that. But it is very important that we use vote for 1-1 or any, be educated on who you're electing, because you don't have that easy way of just going straight ticket. You have to select, or you don't have to select a candidate this time.
Nice. So make sure that you do your research and make sure that you have your notes. You can take your notes. That's always was something I was nervous about, because the first year I used vote411.org, I didn't take it with me because I didn't know if I was allowed. So that's an important, you can take your notes in there with you.
Oh, I just got a text message from an election worker. You cannot have your cell phone in the booth. Okay.
So you can have it on paper. You cannot have it on your phone.
Yes.
Can I just say this real quick? It's great that just happened. She just got that information, because things are somewhat fluid.
Yes.
And because of the COVID-19 pandemic and so forth and so on, things are changing from here to there. So even the information we're sharing with you tonight, you want to make sure you go and do your research and update, if just in case something is updated and different. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Consistently check and recheck.
All right. So that being said, we've gotten registered, we've researched our candidates, and now it's time to actually vote. Now, Khanay, I want to go to you on this one, because we were talking about this earlier. Early voting. Why is it your friend?
Oh, I love early voting because, one, most of the time I'm working on election day. But just to for anybody, you don't want to wait to the last minute. There's a lot of things that are usually come up. There are personal reasons or even voter suppression that might occur of you don't have the right ID or the information that you need to vote, or they're telling you have the wrong polling location, or malfunction with the polling location. And you're like, well, I got to get to work. I don't have time. It's a lot. Anything can happen. So I always encourage people to go early vote. This time, due to COVID, usually it's 2 weeks. This time they're giving you 2.5 weeks. We're getting 2 Sundays, 2 weekends to go early vote this election. It gives you a chance to go in, see how it is. If you do have any issues, like I don't have the right paperwork or ID, then you can always come back later on. to actually vote. So that's why I always appreciate early voting. One, I get it out of the way. I don't have to worry about it. But it also allows you more flexibility. If anything ever comes up, you can have another chance of coming back to the polls and casting your vote. So pretty much eliminating any excuses of not casting a vote.
Yes.
That's really the reason for early voting. You can have if this is your first time around going voting, you can do your test round. Let's see if you're lucky enough. And I pray that everybody's lucky enough to go through the first time around. No issues, then good. Then if some issues, then you have time to come back. But by waiting by November 3rd, those long lines, avoid the hype. It's shorter lines too. There's many locations around that you can go by to do early voting. It's simple. It's simple. Even with COVID-19, it's less people, so you're social distancing. It's a lot of benefits to
this last
early
election, I was
voting.
the only person there early voting in the whole place.
Wow.
So yeah,
I think I saw 2 people last time I early
it
voted.
was just me.
And so
Wow.
it's great. If you don't want the crowds, if you want to stay safe, if you're worried that people are not wearing their masks, go early vote. There's going to be a lot fewer people there. And if you need the early voting dates, it starts on October 13th and it ends on October 30th. So that's 17 days of early voting. That's a long time.
And you can vote anywhere in your county, which is also very important because November 3rd, you cannot just roll up to a polling place and I'm here to vote. You have to go to your exact polling place. But if you early vote, you go anywhere in your county. Oh, we talked about that.
We
changed.
did.
It's
Yes,
changed.
Tarrant County is.
Just that quick.
Yeah, Tarrant County is county-wide, but still,
Yes.
you don't want to wait to the last minute. You
wait.
don't know what's going on. I've seen a lot of people from when I've worked campaigns, and especially in the voter suppression division with those campaigns of getting turned around because they were actually told they had to go to a certain location for their voting, and the county was a countywide voting, a countywide voting. They had, let me get my thoughts back there. They had a countywide voting policy. And so people will do anything to deter people to vote. They were like, well, you're not supposed to be at this polling location. And I'm like, hold up. Smith County, y'all have countywide voting, so she actually can vote at this location. So they will try to give you provisionals or anything to kind of stop you from voting. You're like, I'm discouraged. I've been in this line too long. I don't have time. So you don't even want to deal with that even on election day with the countywide voting in Tarrant County.
And based on the information we have so far, we've identified Tarrant County. I think you said Dallas County.
Yes.
I live in Ellis County. There's not a lot of us at THC, but hey, Reeves, we can vote anywhere countywide. So you've checked those places. Yes, Ellis County actually is countywide. I'm excited about that. Which doesn't matter for me. I'll be working on election day also as a poll worker. Matter of fact, if you're not a poll worker, consider becoming a poll worker.
Yes.
Tiana and I had a conversation, which I encouraged her to become a poll worker because 56% of poll workers are 60 and above. And if they can do it, we can do it. We need young people in there to learn from them because they cannot do it until they're 100. So they need help. And so right after that, I get this message and it's a screenshot and I'm like,
So it's one of those things where we talk about what needs to be done to move along and to improve our voting process. But it's our responsibility, if you have the flexibility, to do the best that you can to be part of the solution. And so I'm an entrepreneur. I'm able to kind of move around, finagle things in my schedule. So it gives me the flexibility to be able to take a few days and be a poll worker. But here's the thing, being a poll worker doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do it every single day of the election cycle. I'm literally working 3 days, 2 days of early voting and November 3rd. So if you have a few days or you're able to give some time, go ahead, put in an application. I went to powerthepolls.org, and that's how I was able to get the information for how to become a poll worker in my county.
And I'm not going to let her glaze over this. What else did they ask you to do?
So they have these different levels, and they have this thing called an alternate judge, which basically if something happens to the judge who's running the whole polling location, then I have to step in and be the guy.
See?
So that'd be fun.
God working.
But that's something you're able to do to be part of the solution to help improve the voting process, because there are people out there who engage in voter suppression, misguiding people. But if you can be the person who makes sure that the voter understands that, yes, you can vote here because it is countywide, you have now improved the voting process.
And I also wanted to let y'all know, I know it's in Dallas County. I'm not sure about the other counties, but they have a student election worker program, and they are actually looking for student workers for election day, November 3rd, to serve as election workers, and they are paying them $16 an hour and giving them community service hours. You just have to go online, fill in the application. I know with Dallas County, their deadline is September 28th. And so for all those parents, you have to be 16 and up. And then if you're 18, you do have to be a registered voter in Dallas County. And so that private, homeschool, public school students, they're looking for students.
And you can get that information on votetexas.gov. They are allowing for 2 excused absences for schools.
Beautiful. So there you go. Get your children involved. You get involved. You can make a little change in the process.
Your child, not you.
Well, right. But even as a poll worker, apparently I'm getting paid as a poll worker.
Yeah.
That's news I didn't know.
I was like, hey, go ahead, send me a little change if you want to.
Yeah, poll workers get paid. You there for 12 hours, 12 plus hours. You get a little something.
I was told to bring snacks though.
Yes, because you're there. The polls open at 7, so you're there at least an hour before, and then you there and sometime after. We don't even know, because even though the polls close at 7, if somebody's in line by 7.
Did y'all hear that? In line by 7.
7.
You are allowed to vote.
So if you are in line by 7 o'clock and they tried to turn you away, they cannot legally do that.
Yes.
They cannot.
Come through with the good information.
And that's when you call 1-866-OUR-VOTE and report them.
You said 166
1-866 our vote, and you can report any election discrepancies, problems, issues, anywhere.
We can put that in your phone. Okay. We're going to put that in the app, 1-866 our vote.
Yes.
And that's how you can report issues at the polling locations. Nice. See, that is information that we need, because I had no clue.
See, Pastor Ray, y'all have all these fancy technology. I have paper.
So speaking of paper, now one of the pieces of paper that has been in the news a lot are mail-in and absentee ballots. One is being called good, one is being called not so good. I want to ask Boss Man, Pastor Ray, can you explain, or at least help us understand a little more about what is an absentee ballot, what's a mail-in ballot?
Yeah, well, absentee ballots typically were designed for people who your residence is in a certain county, but you're out of town, you're displaced for a period of time or during an election, such as a college student or someone who's active in military. So that's typically what absentee ballots are for. Mail-in ballots was for those people who could vote in person, but they choose to vote by mail. So you could do mail-in ballots, but in the state of Texas, typically they limit the mail-in ballots to people who are 65 years old or older, disabled, things of that nature. But we're learning and discovering that Texas is doing something different this time around. Yes. And Tomeka, you were talking about that a little earlier.
Yes. And this was information pulled today that you can request a mail-in ballot and you do not have to tell the reason. So anybody that's eligible to vote can request a mail-in ballot. Now, what we encourage is if you can go vote, to go vote, because that lessens the likelihood of a discrepancy. But you don't have to have a reason to want a mail-in ballot in Texas. And I say that because I know Trinity Harvest is massive and our reach is wide. And so we have people in other states, and I don't want anybody to say, well, she said I could do this and I'm in Georgia. I'm only speaking on Texas.
And so according to my notes in the state of Texas, the last day to apply for a mail-in ballot and your request has to be received by this date is October 23rd. That's my understanding from.
I don't have the date. Khanay, do you have it?
Not right now. Let me see.
Well, so this is the date we will go by.
Okay, that's the day we'll go by until we hear otherwise.
Yes.
Khanay's at home, so she can get all the messages. And I see my phone over here blinking, so I know y'all are texting me things. Sorry, I cannot look at it right now.
So I do have Friday, October 23rd.
Wonderful. So if you want a mail-in ballot, they have to receive your application for the mail-in ballot by October 23rd. And these dates, just like much of the other information that we're covering here, we're going to try to put links and these key dates inside of the THC mobile app. So make sure you have that downloaded so you can get the information. We're going to do our best to keep it updated in a convenient location, i.e. in your pocket.
And then for people who are overseas, they can fill out a federal postcard application. It's similar to that's the same as kind of like a mail-in ballot application, but it's federally, and it's the same process. If they're from Texas, they will still have to go by the same deadline, but it is called a federal postcard application if they're overseas or serving overseas. So I'm not in the military or anything, but let's say overseas during that time, I can still apply. Well, I'm an overseas citizen at that time. I can apply for a federal postcard application.
Nice. Good to know. Good to know. So now we've already kind of covered this about the polling location. So many of the counties are kind of county-wide polling locations. How do you find out if your county is a county-wide polling location, or if you have a specific polling location? Tomeka, can you take that one?
So votetexas.gov, vote411.org, and even just the state of Texas, you can research where your polling location is, but we have learned that some sites are not updated as of yet. As we noticed earlier, 3 of us checked and we all had the same polling location. We're like, that can't be right. So it's very important when we say to consistently check these things, because they change all of the time. And the other thing that we did not talk about as it relates to polling locations is please pay attention to the polling locations, ones that they are closing. Mm-hmm. That is very important to notice because traditionally I have voted either at Dunbar High School or the Martin Luther King Center. And for the past few times, I've been at the courthouse, at the Griffin Courthouse. So pay close attention to the locations that are being impacted and closed. And that's what I'm going to say about that.
So that goes back to what I was talking about earlier. A lot of those polling locations have been, they close them, and a lot of them that were closed are in urban areas. They're in Black and brown communities. That's where they're closing and changing those polling locations, are in our communities.
And the key question is, are the people who are responsible for determining which polling locations are closed, are those impacted by the vote, those people?
Those are your elected officials.
Yep.
There you go.
They are. And even by your elected officials, it can even be your parties, because the parties decide to.
Yes.
So there's another reason why it's important, because if you are concerned about voter suppression, then that means you need to be very careful about trying to vote in candidates who you are confident are not going to engage in that practice. So again, your vote does matter, even when it's something as quote unquote small as determining where polling locations exist. Thank you. Thank you for bringing that up, because we definitely could have missed that. So another question I want to ask, and Khanay, if you can take this one, is, so we've talked about some issues where people are getting the wrong ballots, or they're told that they can't vote at this location, or maybe they, they got in line by 7 o'clock and they're told that they can't vote. What are other kind of pitfalls or issues that we need to be careful of or cognizant of?
I think a lot of people need to be aware of just rules such as how many people you can even have in the car when you're doing rides to polls. And what I mean, rides to the polls if they're doing curbside voting. Be aware of which IDs that you can bring, and also be aware that they don't question your address. For example, I will even give you my personal example. My driver's license, I have not changed my driver's license. I've been here back in Fort Worth for a year. I've not changed it from my Houston address, but I am registered here in Tarrant County to vote. All they need to know, and when I give my driver's license, all they ask is, are you here? Are you registered at so and so Fort Worth, Texas? And yes, I am, even though my driver's license says something else, because that is where I'm registered to vote at. So they cannot ask you, well, your driver's license says something else. That's illegal. They can't turn you away because your driver's license says something else, because I can come in there with my passport and that doesn't have my address on there. So just being aware of things, of what people will try to turn you away from, just because they're not used to it. Also, knowing that even if your ID for older people, if it's expired, if your ID is expired, that's okay. As long as it's not expired over 4 years, you can still use it. You can still go in there to vote. They would try to use several tactics, such as that, and try to push that provisional ballot. Just know that you know what all the information that you need, and if it's incorrect, it's okay to challenge it. It's okay. It's okay to challenge it. You can bring your utility. You probably will have to sign some information talking about why you might not have a certain the approved IDs that you need. But that's all, just sign those papers. Make sure you do not, when you sign those papers, you still will not receive a provisional ballot. So that's the biggest thing, is knowing all the proper IDs, the process of what you need to have when you go vote, to ensure that you are casting a regular ballot and not a provisional ballot. And so that wraps back around to why it's important to do early voting, so you can see what's going on, what you need to go vote.
And what's the difference? What's the difference between a provisional ballot and a regular ballot?
So a provisional ballot is basically only counted if like there's a tie.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's not okay.
Yes. That's the only time and there's very few times that a precinct or a polling location will come down to a tie. So majority of your time that provisional ballot will not be casted.
So I did some research on the forms of ID that are accepted in the state of Texas. Emphasis, state of Texas, okay?
Yes.
And so it says either your driver's license issued by the Texas Department of Safety, a Texas personal ID card issued by the Department of Public Safety, a Texas election identification certificate, a Texas handgun license, so your CHL can actually be used, a U.S. military ID that has your photograph, a U.S. citizenship certificate that has your photograph, or your passport. Essentially, from my research, what they're looking for is an ID, a legally verified ID that has your picture and it has a name that is substantially similar to what's on your voter registration card. Is that correct?
That is correct. There are some provisions to that. So if you do not have an ID, which Khanay has already spoke on, it is called a reasonable impediment declaration. And it basically says that you don't have an ID and why you don't have it. So if you have lack of transportation to get an ID, if you don't have the money, because all of that costs to pay for it, you fill out that form and you get a ballot.
And that's when you're able to use things like your birth certificate, your utility bill, a bank statement, a government check, a paycheck, or a government document with your name or address.
But even if you can't get any of those, you can still get a ballot.
Wow.
All you have to do is fill out the form and say why.
And there you go. So you can still vote as long as you are legally registered to vote. And if you have to fill out a reasonable impediment declaration, fill out the form so you can get a regular ballot.
And usually that government document is like if you have your voter registration card. If you bring that.
So then I think we've covered everything that we wanted to walk through tonight, but things have been changing. Things have been going on in the news. Before we go to questions, is there anything new that's popped up that you guys are aware of that you're like, we have to make sure we talk about this?
Well, I know that I definitely want to stress the census. You have to make sure that you are counted. There are some zip codes that are traditionally not counted. That is 76119, 105, 76112, 76107, 76123, 76133.
All Southeast forward.
Think about the demographic. The money comes from the census. We need you to get counted. We need you to count everybody in your household. You don't get money for your neighborhood. Stop 6, Eastwood, Southside, Poly. You do not get money for your neighborhood if you are not counted.
Yeah. And then with the census, redistricting come. And so that data that Texas has the potential of gaining 2 to 3 new congressional seats. And so I think at least one in the Dallas area. But Texas has the potential of gaining 2 or 3 seats. And that even goes back to the Electoral College, because the number of electors for each state is based on the number of representatives that they have in Congress. So basically with Texas, we have 38 electors, which is 36 congressional seats plus 2 for our Senate seat. So we have the possibility of gaining additional members to the Electoral College with the census if everybody's counted correctly, because Texas is one of the fastest growing states in the nation.
Nice. That is great to know. So do your census. I know in our neighborhood, we actually had someone come to the door to do our census. I know that we've gotten phone calls about the census. We've got it in the mail. They also have a website for doing the census. There are lots of different ways in which you can do it. And as you can see, it impacts things that you would have never considered. Money for your neighborhood, how many seats we have. So those are things that we need to have a voice in. So do your census. Thank you for bringing that up. So now I want to pop in here and I want to see what questions do we have. We've actually done well, guys. We've covered a lot.
Yes.
We've still got 25 minutes. So let's pop in here and let's see some questions that we have. So Deacon Billy, he popped in here. He said, what I heard is anyone in Texas can request a mail-in ballot. Is that without any age restrictions?
That is correct.
Yes. Based on our most recent information, you can get a mail-in ballot. There is no age restriction as of right now. And if you have a question, go ahead, pop it in the chat. I am monitoring our THC digital site because that's just my favorite, frankly. Facebook does not show all the comments. So if you have a question, the best way to make sure we're able to see your question is to hop over to live.thcconnects.com and pop your question in the chat.
Also, put a Q in front of your question. It makes it a little easier for our digital team to grab it. I did see a question here. One person wanted to know, how do you become a poll worker? And I think you gave that website.
So I went to powerthepolls.org and I just put in my my information to my zip code so they could find my county, and they actually took me directly to my county's website to download the application. Some counties it's an electronic application. I know with Ellis County, I had to print it out, fill it out, and I emailed it back to them. And I got a response within a couple of days with my assignments.
Yeah, good deal. Got me over here thinking about working the polls.
Come on, Pastor, we need you.
I see some comments in here talking about gerrymandering. Gerrymandering can be a beast.
Yeah.
I know we watched a video on that before Corona started.
Yeah. I got another question. And I don't know, Tomeka or Khanay, you may be able to address this one. The question says, the newer Texas ID/driver's license has a gold star in the upper right-hand corner. I was told if you show up to vote and your identification doesn't have that star, it is not considered to be a valid ID. Is that fact or fiction?
That is fiction. That is incorrect.
Complete and utterly false.
Yes, that star is about travel and nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Okay.
It's a verifiable for travel,
Good.
not for voting.
Yeah.
Another
You still can go 4 years for expiration.
And if you're 70 plus, your license can been expired 20 years ago, and they'll still let you vote.
And also, if you're 70, they at a certain age, 70 plus. If you already done an application for a mail-in ballot, they usually just at that certain age will automatically send you a mail-in ballot.
Usually. But
usually,
we
but
are
check.
Yes,
yes,
we are in
check
time, so make sure.
Yes.
Another question we have here is, can you drop off a completed mail-in ballot to make sure your ballot is received and minimize or eliminate having to stand in a long line? If so, is there a specific or designated location?
There is. I got to get my notes.
Okay.
Because that one,
I believe it's just the election office.
Yeah, I think it's the election office.
The official, the Tarrant County
office. They have to take it directly there.
Okay, so there's your answer. If you want to take in your mail-in ballot directly instead of sending it through the mail, take it to the Tarrant County election office.
Or whatever county you're in.
Yes, sorry. The election office for your county.
Yes.
Okay.
A comment was made, which I think Khanay mentioned this earlier, emphasizing the down ballot, that there is no straight ticket. I think somebody made a comment about that. Mm-hmm. Meaning you have to go through every election or every page of the election and cast your vote.
And since you have to go through every single one anyway, you might as well take a little time to get to know who the people are.
Indeed.
So it looks like we're looking to see. It doesn't seem like we have any more questions. Does that mean that we've had a successful panel?
I think it does.
It does. It's very informative.
So our prayer is that you got the information that you needed to be able to get registered, to learn about candidates, to safeguard yourself against tactics that are being used to discourage people from voting. And if you have more questions, there are many ways that you can get that information. So Tomeka, can you share some of your favorite websites to go for information?
My favorite website is vote411.org, because it always has everything I need there, and especially that sample ballot. I love it.
Nice. Khanay, do you have any other sources you like to go to? Any favorites?
That is one of mine, vote411.org. And then my favorite is votetexas.org, because it's powered by and this is for the Texas people, powered by the Texas Secretary of State. Usually it's the most accurate. Right now, they still updating polling locations. So if it's not that, then you go straight to your election, your county elections website. So those are my three: is Vote 411 if you want to get the information about the candidates. And then votetexas.org for registering to vote, to see if you're active in voting in your county, and then to your county website to see if they have updates on your actual ballot and polling locations if you're not countywide, and actually even to check to see if you're countywide.
Nice. So we had another question pop in here, and I like this because this question is about being part of the solution.
I didn't get to give my
I'm
favorite.
sorry. See, what is your favorite, boss man?
Google. Which takes me to both of those places, and I still get it done. I'm sorry.
It's fine. So, but I like this last question that's been, actually, no, we just got another one. So I'm going to flip these two questions. So Gwen, okay. So one of the questions just popped in: what site should I visit to research the candidates? The one that we just shared that allows you especially to do a sample ballot is vote411.org. And if you need to find that again, if you forget it, because I always mess it up. And so you can go to the THC mobile app, click on that Vote 2020 image, and the link to that website is going to be right there, as well as the link to the votetexas.gov website. You can find those in there. But the question that I like, that not to say I didn't like the other questions, but the one that excites me is one about being part of the solution. And it's, how do we motivate those zip code areas, the ones that Tomeka listed, to complete the census so that they can be counted? What do you guys recommend for motivating others?
Well, I can speak for the social action part of Fort Worth alumni, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. We are pounding the streets. You can find us at any event promoting voter registration as well as being counted in the census. We've showed up at the Como Little League Pee Wee football games. We've been to neighborhood association meetings. We've been to the curbside pickups. If you let us know, and we don't carry this load by ourselves, because fortunately, Trinity Harvest is fortunate to have North Central Tarrant County alumni of Delta Sigma Theta here also. and we can just get just about anybody. We have partnered with the census, so any information that is needed to be given, we can give it out. And y'all know me, I'm from Stop 6. I just am who I am. And so I just make it very clear. The money is driven by the count. Mm-hmm. And that's simple as that. Your street repairs, everything is driven by the count. So when I'm talking to them, all this other stuff, all those degrees and stuff, it doesn't matter because I'm serious. Mm-hmm. Hey, you want some money over here? We're going to need to get counted. what we need to do.
Right.
And that's just what it is. We have to tell them, we hear so many complaints about XYZ. Did your household get counted? Mm-hmm. Nothing is going to happen.
Right.
Until the numbers show that it needs to happen.
Right.
Right.
So you're pounding in the streets. You're talking to people just one-on-one, being real, being open, being honest with them.
Yeah.
I like to, we do these things here at Trinity Harvest. We have these conversations, and we have done it, since we've been a church. And we've had different events to try to bring some awareness and some education to our membership here. But I'd encourage anyone who's watching us tonight.
I'm sorry. 2020 census.gov. I'm going to repeat it again. 2020 census.gov. 10 questions in 10 minutes. And so, really, if people just realize, like Tomeka said, more people, more money. A lot of us are using the benefits that are received through federal dollars, SNAP, Medicaid, CHIP programs. And we should have seen during COVID-19 how imperative these programs are, that we need to be counted. We can't, like she said, we can't get mad at why our neighborhood is not changing. Why is this not getting fixed? Well, they don't know you exist.
Wow. That's it.
They do not know that you exist at all. And so until you get counted, and it's like, well, the government got my information. First of all, you got a social security number, which is a government issued ID number anyway. You got a driver's license, which is a government issued ID. They got your information anyway. It don't even matter. Get counted. And I think even the census asks for the least amount of information. You get more information on your job application than you do on the census.
True. That is definitely true.
So there's no excuse not to do the take this less than 10 minutes. It really is less than 10 minutes. It really is
less than 10 minutes.
Everybody need to get counted, even the babies in the house, because it affects you for the next 10 years. Because that baby that just got born will be 10 by the next time that's come around.
I believe if they were born as of January 1st, you count them.
Mm-hmm. Which that's good, because that leads into what I was going to say. I didn't realize that Khanay was talking, so forgive me for being so rude, but I'm going to mess up this Frederick Douglass quote, but I think it goes something to the effect of it's better to build strong children than it is to repair broken men.
Yes.
So I'm going to say it's better to inform children than to try to re-educate or inform ignorant men. So we have to start. Those people who are 10 will be 20 in the next 10 years. Those who are 15 to be 25. So it is going to impact and affect all of us who are present right now. So we need to do that. The other thing I was going to say was we have these conversations at Trinity Harvest here from time to time. Mm-hmm. We try to create spaces not only to talk about the Word of God, but to talk about the things that are affecting the lives of the people who are a part of our church. So continue to be a part. When you hear these things are happening at Trinity Harvest, jump on, stream with us, comment, ask questions. When we get back to the place where we can do them in person, be present to get that information and to support the people who are providing it. And lastly, if you're not a part of our church family, but you do have a church family and you're watching with us now, or you see this video later, maybe have a conversation with your pastor and the leadership at your church and the leadership in your community to see if you can get them to host more talks like this, more conversations and events like this. So that's one of the ways we can try to help to emphasize the importance and motivate our people to participate in these processes.
Nice. So we did have a quick request. Someone was asking on YouTube if we can repeat the info regarding the rights of felons to be able to vote.
Yes. And I know it by heart, but I always like to refer to my notes. Just in case. Or Khanay, do you want to?
You got it.
She's like, you got all the notes, girl. Use them.
Yeah, I do, but I put them out of order. Okay. If you have completed sentence, probation, and or parole, you are eligible to register as well as vote.
Nice. There you go. And if you are facing a felony charge, however,
you're not convicted.
You're not convicted and you have nothing else on your record, you also are still eligible to register to vote. Does that cover it?
Yes. And the sentence actually says you are not a convicted felon.
Yeah. So there's options out there. So spread the word. I know a lot of us, sometimes people make mistakes, bad things happen. So spread the word, let them know if they fulfill their obligations, if the charge is just there, but they're not on paper as fast.
I was just about to say that.
But they can exercise their right to vote. And it's important that they do so because they do have some inside knowledge that some other people might not have. So I'm trying to see, do we have any more questions? I don't think we have any more questions. I see people saying great info. I think Shavon was laughing at UPT earlier. But I think at this point, we've covered all the things that we came to cover. With that, I want to just go around the table real quick. We have 9 minutes and give each of you an opportunity to give a final thought. I'm going to end with you, PT, because I'm going to need you to pray for the peoples. Okay. So Tomeka, do you have any final thoughts that you want to share or emphasize?
Just make sure you get counted and make sure you vote.
Khanay?
Get counted, vote. Remember that this is just the first step after protesting. Voting is free. It is the way that your voice is getting heard, but know that it's just the first step. After that, you just have to keep on and to uphold these elected officials to make the real changes that you all wanted and protested in the street. Your voice should be heard at the ballot box coming up in October and November, because early voting started in October. And then I just want to put in a little plug that we have a candidate forum coming up September 18th.
Nice.
Fort Worth Alumni Chapter, having a candidate forum with calling Understanding the Unknown, and we're highlighting positions that most people might not know about and asking them about their Black agenda, because it's on National Black Voters Day, September 18th. And so.
Yes.
Okay. And if you ladies will send me the information, I will make sure that we get that added in the THC mobile app.
We definitely will.
As well, because again, we want you guys to have as much info as we possibly can. And that is going to be a fabulous place to learn about positions and candidates that you never would have heard of before. Now, my final thought is I just want to encourage you to seek the information, continue to get educated, and don't walk in there and be an uneducated voter. Vote for what you believe in, which requires you to do the research. So now I'm going to give it to Pastor Ray for your final thought and for you to pray over the peoples and what is to come, because we are still in a chaotic time.
Indeed. So let me just say to all of you, simply get it done. Go out there and let your voice be heard. Be a participant, be a part of the solution, and not just simply a part of the problem. Go vote. And I'll say thank you to these wonderful ladies, Miss Khanay, who was on with us as a guest today. Certainly my classmate, Tomeka, for being with us, and our wonderful host, Tiana. Thank you, ladies, so much. And thank all of you who hung in there with us and are watching today. So let's go ahead and pray and we will get out of here. Father, we bless you. We thank you today. We give you the praise, honor, and glory because you are truly worthy. God, we thank you for giving us a heart and a mind to come together. There's so many things we could be talking about, so many other things we could be doing. But thank you for allowing us to see the importance of participating in these electoral processes. Lord, you said in your word that the heart of a king is in your hand and you turn it whichever way you will. So we don't do this voting with hearts of futility, thinking that it doesn't matter. We vote, God, knowing that you are in control. Not only that, your word declares over in Romans 13 that these governments and administrations are things that you have ordained and established. So, Lord, we know that you're in control. And even knowing that, that gives us the courage to vote from a place as much as possible of conviction. It gives us the courage to vote and be counted and stand up for ourselves, our families, and our communities. So thank you again, God, for these people who are streaming and watching with us. Thank you for these ladies who are here to share this wonderful information with your people. We bless you. We give you praise, honor, and glory. It is in Jesus' name we pray. Somebody say, thank God.
Thank God.
Amen.
Amen.
All right. Well, if that's all, we love y'all. Miss Khanay, God bless you. Tomeka, God bless you. Tiana, God bless you. God bless you all. Go with God, and we'll see you here again tomorrow night for THC's Wednesday Word.